Hi folks, this is your flipped classroom lesson on ledger lines. This goes with packet 7-2. Let's jump right in. Objective today, you're going to be able to name the pitch of any note that uses ledger line. So, here we go. Sometimes notes go above or below the staff. So if we have notes that are really high, they're above the staff. If we have notes that are really low, they're actually below the staff. Whenever it happens, it's important to remember that each note is still on either a line or a space. So in order to name the notes, we have to know which line or which space it's on. So even if it's floating up above the staff, or even if it's way down below the staff, it still has a line or a space associated with it. What we call a ledger line is drawn to reference where the note is, and this is just a tiny little line. Here, let me draw you an example. Like, let's say I have this beautiful quarter note here. You might see like a short little line like that goes right through it. Or let's say maybe it's not on a line, maybe it's in a space. Sometimes you'll see a line above it to show us exactly where it is. So that line right there is what we call a ledger line. Remember, as we go up the staff, pitches go in order, and as we go down the staff, pitches are going to go backwards. So, here we go. Treble clef. Make sure that you draw your treble clef on your staff. I think it's missing from yours, so make sure it ends up on there. So, let's go through and name these notes. Remember, the letters go in order when you go up the staff and backwards when you go down the staff. So, looking at this first note, I'm thinking to myself, what is the closest line or space that I do know the name of? And I know that bottom line in treble clef is called E. So I'm keeping that in mind. That bottom line is called E. That means that the space right underneath it, which is not where this note is, but the space underneath that is a D, because D comes before E in the alphabet, and I'm going backwards. If that space is a D, that means that the line under that space, still going backwards in the alphabet, would be a C, and this note happens to be right there on that C line. You'll notice it also has that ledger line to prove to me that it is on a line. So this note's name is C. Again, I did that because I know the bottom line in treble clef is E. I know that space in there would be a D, and underneath that space is a line called C, which happens to be where my note is. Take a look at the next one. On the next one, I have to think to myself, what is the closest line or space that I do know the name of? And I know that the top line in treble clef, right up here, is called an F, because every good boy does fine. So this one is an F. This note is above that line, so I have to go forward in my alphabet. What letter comes after F? The answer here is G. You'll notice that with this one, there is no ledger line. We don't have a short little ledger line to tell us where that is. Take a look at the next one. I know that this top line in treble clef is called F, because every good boy does fine. That means that the space above that line would be a G, as we did in the last example. And this note is above that space, so it's on the line right above that space. I'm thinking to myself, what comes after G in the alphabet? H comes after G in the alphabet, but we don't use H to name pitches. We use A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and after G we go back to A, so this note's name is A. Looking at the next one, I think to myself, what's the closest line or space that I do know the name of? I know the name of that bottom line in treble clef. It's called E. Every good boy does fine. That means that the space below it would be a D. That means that the line below that would be a C. I'm just working backwards in the alphabet. And the space below that C line is a B, so this note's name is B. Take a look at the next one. I know that bottom line in treble clef is called E. Every good boy does fine. This is below that, so the space below an E would tell me D, because D comes before E in the alphabet. Moving on to bass clef, we're going to do this in the same way. Make sure that you draw a bass clef on your staff. So I think to myself, what is the closest line or space that I know the name of already? That top line in bass clef is an A, because good boys do fine always. That means that the space above that space right there would be a B. This line above that space is going to be a C, because that comes next in the alphabet. And this is on top of that, so this is a D. Again, I'm just using the alphabet here, going in order or backwards order depending on which direction I'm going. On the next one, this bass clef line, the bottom line in bass clef is a G. Good boys do fine always. Before G, this space right here would be an F. Before F, this line, this ledger line here, is an E. Before E, we have a D, which is that space. And then this ledger line where my note actually is would be a C. I made a little bit of a mess here, so let me show you. It's a C. There you go. For the next one, let's see. I know that this bottom line in bass clef is called G. Good boys do fine always. This is right underneath a G. I'm going backwards in my alphabet. What letter comes before G? F comes before G. The next one, top line in bass clef, is called an A. Good boys do fine always. This is above an A. I'm going up the staff, so I'm going forward in my alphabet. After A comes B. This next one down here, I know that this bottom line is called G in bass clef. Below that is an F. I know that because I did that in this example here. And then underneath that F, this ledger line is underneath the F, so this must be an E, because it's right underneath there. The very last one, I know that this top line is called A. Good boys do fine always. The next space would be a B. This next ledger line is a C, because it's after a B. The next space would be a D. And then this one, where my note is going to be an E, because it is above a D. I can't draw. There we go. That is your lesson on ledger lines. Make sure that you take a good look at these notes. You'll have an entrance ticket on your way to class next time. I hope you are having a great start to your week. Love you, bye. See you later.